games.
It's not a waste of time. You practice skills and learn things about the world.
What, on Angry Birds?
Hey, you learn about the physics of flight.
You really believe in popping pigs and exploding birds?
What's in a game? Next time on Philosophy Talk.
What the games people play now, every night and every day now.
Listen to Philosophy Talk today at noon on KSJE 90.9 FM, Farmington. KSJE is supported by San Juan Regional Medical Center, here to meet your urgent and emergent medical needs, whether they are COVID-19 related or not. Medical emergencies happen when you least expect them, whether it's a stroke, heart attack, illness, or injury. San Juan Regional Medical Center's caregivers are here to provide care to you and your loved ones. Find out more online at sanjuanregional.com. "11 minutes past 8 o'clock. It is Tuesday morning, October 27th. Good morning, everybody. I'm Scott Michlin. Thank you for tuning in to KSJE 90.9 FM over the air here in San Juan County, New Mexico, 103.3 FM over the air in Durango, Colorado, and streaming everywhere from our website, KSJE.com. Welcome also to our viewers who are watching this visual radio program. It is streaming live this morning to the KSJE YouTube channel, our Facebook page, and our KSJE Twitter account. So we're glad that you are with us, everybody. This morning we're getting an update from Bloomfield Schools. I'll be talking to James Olivas from the district offices in Bloomfield, so we're glad that you're here for that program. It's starting in the next few moments right here on KSJE. And then, of course, don't forget on Tuesdays, it's our Adopt a Pet Tuesday segment coming up this morning at 8:50 a.m. I'll be visiting with Amber Francisco from the Farmington Regional Animal Shelter. She'll be telling us about some of the dogs, cats, and yes, even a turtle. That's Winston the turtle on the screen, who is up for adoption this week. So we'll learn more about him coming up later on this hour at 8:50 a.m. this morning. Next hour, Mick Hess will take us roving with the arts. It is Tuesday. Mick is playing Bach cantatas on Tuesdays for us. Bach wrote a lot of these, and we are hearing all of them. Mick is working his way through the collection, and that's coming up today, 9:06 on KSJE, so we hope you'll stay tuned for that next hour. Don't forget, of course, in addition to Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, we invite you to connect with KSJE on our Instagram platform as well. And let's talk about the weather, shall we? It is going to be another day of potential snowfall in the area, or maybe some rain and snow mixed. That winter weather advisory for our area is in effect until 6 a.m. on Wednesday. So today, chances for snow, mostly cloudy this morning, partly cloudy skies this afternoon, 39 degrees for a high today in Farmington. More chances for snow overnight tonight with a low of 21. Things begin to warm up, thankfully, tomorrow with a high near 50 degrees, with mostly sunny skies on Wednesday, 54 for a high on Thursday, 58 by Friday, and lower 60s on Saturday and Sunday with lots of sunshine, but those overnight lows are still below freezing, mid to upper 20s overnight. And of course, we always tell you that visual radio can take you places. What if we check out Wolf Creek ski area this morning? The sunrise just beautiful over the mountain there at Wolf Creek. Some blowing snow passing by the camera there, where currently it is 12 degrees at Wolf Creek, on their way to a high today of 24 degrees with plenty of sunshine in the forecast. And Wolf Creek actually one of the first ski areas to announce their opening day tomorrow. Partial opening at Wolf Creek ski area. So for all the skiers out there, there you go. Well, let me turn to my guest, who is patiently waiting for me to introduce him this morning from the Bloomfield School District. James Olivas is joining me via Zoom this morning. Mr. Olivas, good morning.
Good morning. Good morning to everybody.
Thank you for joining us this morning. We appreciate that. Dr. Mizell is having meetings galore today, and so she's unable to join us, but you are here in her stead, and I appreciate that very much. And to begin with, maybe you can give us kind of an update on how things are going at Bloomfield Schools. You are the Director of Operations and Data for the district, so from your perspective, if you wouldn't mind, give us an overview.
Well, really the general overview is that we're doing as best as we can. Either are coming into school or currently in the hybrid mode. We have elementaries, Monday, and then other cohorts Thursday and Friday. Here's our teaching, and students, they're just really getting accustomed to this new way of doing business. Not an easy way of doing business, but it's a new way. Other updates as we move along, we're learning a lot of new things that we didn't know. What we knew in March is totally different from what we know today. Continue to make decisions to keep our kids safe and healthy. We have been, right now we're in the process of installing water fountains that don't utilize the mouthpiece and their bottled water fill stations. So that's a healthier way of kids getting access to water. We continue to heighten, improve, and revise our disinfection protocols so that we can ensure that the building is being covered throughout the day. We modified the way we did meals. We used to be on a schedule where we delivered them, district wide, and now with kids in the building, we've modified those schedules so that kids can get meals at school, and then they take home meals for the days that they're not in school. We're implementing screening both at the bus before they get on the bus or at school, screening of staff. We've invested in some technologies where we could do that contactless with some face recognition type scanners. So that's nice. So it's just a plethora of learning and flexibility and just trying to advance in a really difficult landscape.
Understood. Well, and that is kind of the understatement for all of 2020, I'm afraid. We have a lot of people doing a lot of jobs a lot differently than they ever have before, and I think a lot of folks are rising to the occasion. That's probably true in Bloomfield schools as everywhere else, to kind of deal with some of these things on the fly as you're rethinking how to do these traditional things and thinking outside the box in some cases, I would imagine, correct?
You hit it on the nail. The way we did business back in March and the way we're doing it now, it has required people to step outside their comfort zones, to step outside their normal traditional roles. I can't even give as many accolades as possible for all the work and all of the dedication and loyalty that the staff of Bloomfield has shown. I'm sure this is representative of all schools across New Mexico, across the nation, where we always talk about it takes a village to raise a kid right, and you're seeing a lot of that. You're seeing a lot of effort to put kids first and show the value of them receiving education so that they can go on and become what they want to become. And so, you definitely hit it on the nail that people are just stepping up, and I'm so thankful that people are doing that, and it's just amazing to watch. It just humbles you in many ways to see what people are doing to make sure kids get educated. Right.
Very true. And, of course, Bloomfield schools have some unique challenges compared to some other districts, perhaps. I know, again, the Bloomfield School District serves the city of Bloomfield, the Blanco area, but it has a large portion south along Highway 550 onto the reservation. And so, it's a very rural district. And so all those come into play as well. You mentioned one thing that I don't think I'd ever thought of, and that is the simple drinking fountain, and how in this new world that is a very dangerous thing these days, and how to retrofit maybe some of those, is what you were mentioning, to maybe become water bottle stations instead of drinking fountains. And that means it's a safer way to get water to your staff, your kids who are coming back to school, instead of having to go to the drinking fountain, which are off limits these days for everybody.
Mm-hmm. And it goes to that where in our everyday we take the simplest things for granted, and when you're faced with challenge and you can't do those simplicities in life that you're accustomed to, it makes you think out of the box and makes you think of things that you didn't even realize you had to think about. And so the water stations was one of those things that were like, well, man, how are we going to make that safe for kids? And then we had just luckily installed a couple of them at a different school, and throughout conversation we decided, like, hey, that would be a great idea to do that in all of our buildings, because then we can turn off the mouthpiece and then still provide safe water. So, yeah, in challenge, it always that's where solutions come from. You can't do what you normally did the way you did it for how many years, and then now you're all on a dime have to change that process.
Very true.
Yeah.
And so you are, I imagine, asking your staff to try to think outside the box and maybe, come up with some of these answers to some of these challenges that you and your colleagues are facing in the district to kind of deal with these very unique problems that 2020 has brought to all of us, really.
Mm-hmm. We try to be extremely receptive. I mean, there's so many solutions out there that need to be solved that it requires to be able to listen to many conversations, many ideas, many inputs. I mean, I don't have the details as our curriculum director would have, Mr. Summers, but working with teachers to devise the curriculum and the platform that students are learning from. I mean, that's a huge toll to take on in a short amount of time, but they rose to the occasion and they put out something that was really great for our students and our teachers to work from. It's always a process that can be improved in building, but man, they're meeting that challenge. They're meeting it by making sure that the content is being covered. They're meeting the challenges and delivering that instruction virtually and in the classroom. I mean, they have a lot of victories under their belts because collaboratively they continue to do the best that I've seen in meeting the challenges in a short amount of time and like I said, in a changed landscape.
True, very true. And so with your job, talk to us a little bit about the job that you do as Director of Operations and Data for Bloomfield Schools. That encompasses a lot of different things, I would imagine. Right.
So my job entails, I oversee the transportation, maintenance, custodial, student nutrition, and that since March has been a big job. I mean, we've coordinated delivery of meals. We've coordinated how we're going to transport students to and from school. Like I said, we have a big population down south, and how do we support them through federal programs and technology? We've actually we're able to put hotspots on the buses. We also have hotspots down south in specific locations. Technology has been amazing in putting hotspot areas within our school parking lots. Really, it's just a coordinated effort with all the departments, with all the directors, and it touches every department that I have. But the coordination and the effort, like we just talked about earlier, it's amazing. It's amazing to see all these groups of people coming together to provide services for students and families.
True. And I think I recall Dr. Mizell telling me maybe early on during this COVID-19 year that Bloomfield schools seem to be ahead of many others in ordering some of the equipment that you might need, some of the technology that you might need, and some of these things as the school district kind of prepared for remote learning, partial back to face-to-face learning, all these types of things, and these materials, these supplies that would be necessary to make all this possible. And I imagine that kind of fell to you or partially to you?
I would love to take all the credit, but I can't.
Okay.
Like I said, it's a coordinated effort with all directors. And, Dr. Mizell one day said, we can't sit and wait. We're going to plan. And we put this humongous plan on a big dry erase board. And we put our think heads together. We try to do a lot of things in advance. And that coordinated effort really put us in a great place in a great position so that we had the technologies in place that we needed, and we had the curriculum in place that we needed, so that when kids started in August, we were fortunate that we were in a really good place. But like I said, that was a lot of collaboration. It was a lot of effort joined by all departments. It was fortunate that we were in the position that we were, but needless to say, it was work, but it paid off.
Very true. Well, and you mentioned again the whole idea of putting a Wi-Fi hotspot onto a school bus, right, and driving it down into an area that doesn't have reliable access to internet, and that was one of the things that is now happening at Bloomfield School District?
Sure. Again, through our technology and federal programs, they were able to get the funding and get the design. And thinking that there's Wi-Fi in a bus is, we don't know. To me, it was an unreal thought.
Sure.
Can we do that? And so, yeah, we were able to find the right system, and again, we have it on 10 buses, and then so I keep saying, challenge presents us with finding solutions, and what is it in the future? Are all of our buses going to have Wi-Fi? That's a possibility. So we're kind of like meeting the challenge today, but seeing how does it affect our tomorrow as well.
Right. Well, and I think Dr. Mizell has told me, too, in the past during some of our conversations that some of the school bus rides that some of your students take to get to school when school is in session and they're able to come face-to-face can be, and I'm going to probably get it wrong, but I think over an hour, maybe even close to 2 hours. Does that sound right to you?
That's correct. We do service a district that is wide.
Yes.
And so reaches way down south. Some of our kids are on the bus an hour and a half. We also have to realize that we pick them up and they're on the bus an hour and a half. But then some kids live even further than that, because where we pick them up, they have to drive too. So their day starts really early, and so having the Wi-Fi on the bus might help them. If they didn't have it, then they're right into town.
That is what I was thinking of, is if I could get some of my homework done on the bus ride to school or even after school before I get home where I don't have Wi-Fi, that could be a big deal for me for getting my schoolwork done. Yeah,
I mean, you might have seen in the news, that there's these kids who are walking to school and getting the Wi-Fi from their schools, and I believe it was an article that I saw from schools down south. So that challenge of not having access to Wi-Fi is real, and I think the state has realized that is a solution that needs to be resolved, because it might be Corona or COVID today, but what is it tomorrow? And so if there's that chance that something else is out there, then we need to adapt and change and have those accessibilities to all students, so that we don't lose the vision of all kids deserve a good education.
Right, and that's a great point, I think, too. In a post-COVID world, which we are all anticipating happening sooner than later, what is public education going to look like? And from the lessons that we have learned during this time, how important it is to have access to the internet, have access to Wi-Fi for students to be able to work maybe remotely and get their homework done and get their homework turned in. All these things that we are dealing with today, and all these challenges that we are dealing with today, will be probably part of our lives to come, and some of these solutions that we're talking about, and kind of falls to people like you and your staff and others there in the district to make these things happen, like you've already have done, I suppose.
Yeah, you talk about something about what is the post-COVID world. My hope is that the post-COVID world means that we're back into schools. There's nothing that can replace the in-person instruction. The kids do go to school to learn about science and social studies and all the other content areas, but there's also all those other things that they learn at school: peer-to-peer interaction, how to problem solve with other people, teamwork. They learn how to develop relationships with one another and be cohesive with a group. That's kind of hard to do in a virtual world. And parent after parent that I've talked to in our district, in other districts across New Mexico, they're all in agreement that the in-person instruction is there's no replacing that. But equally, the environment of being there is equally as important, especially when you get to social and emotional learning. These kids, what happened? When we stop and think about it, their normal when it came to going to school was totally changed. And so how do you adapt to that change when you're in this virtual world and the number of supports are either limited or not there with as you once had them? Kind of like the equivalent of when you started a new school year. the anxiety of a kid coming to school on day one, and they might be in the same classroom with some friends, and they might be in the classroom with new friends. And so how do you adapt to that? And then so, when you're in person, the teacher orchestrates that and helps all children, adapt to those changes, and that's a safe place. But when you're virtual, how do you have that same type of experience? Because there's a lot of limitations per se.
You bet. No, that's a great point, and I agree with you that, and I know a lot of parents are concerned about that lack of socialization that kids are enduring because of COVID-19 and not being able to come to school and not being able to hang out with their friends and not being able to play on their sports teams and all these things that we're not able to do, hopefully temporarily, and it is temporary, that we'll be able to get back to in this post-COVID world. And I think, for a lot of kids who maybe play video games in a virtual world and spend hours and hours doing that and enjoy that, but then realize that the real thing is also necessary, and I think that's what a lot of folks are discovering, and we're learning that as well, especially in education. Correct?
Yeah, parents are struggling, students are struggling, equally teachers are struggling, and my hope is that in this temporary landscape, that we can work together to continue to find those solutions. And I know it's easier said than done to not be frustrated, to not, don't give up. And it's easier to say just keep doing what you got to do to continue your education. And that's the easy way of saying it. But, my hopes is that everyone out there just keeps at it and ensures that the kids are on task and don't think of it as, well, I'm just not going to do it because it's, nobody's doing it. Well, but that mindset is not, it's a negative mindset. You need to live in a growth mindset where, okay, this is temporary. We need to know that, like you said, with the challenge that, our roles are changing. And with roles changing and responsibilities change. And then with that, we just have to keep plugging away and just saying, the best way that we can minimize loss of instruction is by continuing that instruction, checking in with our kids routinely, being more interactive with our students, and finding out what they're learning today. That question of what did you learn at school today? That really becomes a really not popular, but a needed question to ask. What did you learn today? And how did you learn it? And really checking in. And I struggle from the same. There might be a child out there that is in a math class that I've never taken before, and how do I help that child? And it might be online resources. It might be, sending messages to the instructor. Whatever we need to do so that kid understands that content and is learning. Like I said, our roles are changing where we always ask students to be advocates for themselves, but we also have to be as parents or as teachers or administrators advocates for those students as well.
Very true. My guest this morning, James Olivas, is with me from the Bloomfield School District. He is the Director of Operations and Data for the district. And Mr. Olivas, I always like to remind folks when I'm talking to anyone in public education that if there are students who are struggling or having difficulties, Bloomfield Schools, like every other school district in our state, has resources and people that folks can reach out to get maybe some help or resources or referrals or what have you to help in that type of specific situation?
Right. Yeah, to me, no child should be, or family should be sitting there frustrated and not feeling like they can achieve something. Reach out to your school sites, reach out, and let's see what we can do to help and provide resources or even services. I know we've signed up with the state with Engage New Mexico, which provides like some coaching services for students. There's nothing worse than just sitting there feeling like you've already been defeated. Like I said, the village includes both the community and us, and reach out. Don't sit there frustrated and feel like you're spinning the wheels. We can do this, but it's going to be easier if we do it together.
Very true. And just like some students may take to this online learning and do very well, there are other students that may be struggling, and that's understandable, and there are resources to maybe help them and techniques maybe to help them and their families to move forward and not just give up.
Right. Back before, like when computers were built, you had two kinds of people with computers. There was those people who were afraid of them because if I touch a button, the computer's going to explode. And then you had those other ones who were just explosive on a computer because they took to it. And right now, we're kind of in a stage where whichever category you were in, you're forced into the virtual world. And so, yeah, you're right. We're going to have to develop different skills a lot faster so that we can be an active participant in the virtual setting. And we do. I know our tech department, and I'm sure across the state will be a good resource to help parents and students and teachers navigate in the virtual world. I mean, those services are there. Reach out again. I mean, don't sit there thinking that it's impossible. I mean, make the impossible possible by reaching out and networking with people who can provide some assistance.
Very true. Very true. Well, Mr. Olivas, we just have a couple of minutes remaining this morning together on the program, and I wanted to ask you, maybe looking forward, what's next on your vision for your job, for your staff, as the district moves through this very unique 2021 school year? What are your next projects?
Really, the next project that we have is just, again, continuing our protocols and disinfecting, hopefully moving into a transition where as vaccines or whatever come into play, transitioning into transporting more kids to school and coming to some type of normal again, whatever that normal is we define. Really, it's kind of hard to pre-plan in advance because right now we're in the stages of baby steps, but with every step that we take, we're going to take it as a learning step as well, and then reflect on those, and then just try to find those learning solutions that are going to drive us forward and keep kids at the top.
Very true. Well, and it sounds like you and your staff are just learning to roll with the punches, and whatever comes, you can react hopefully swiftly and get things ready for your students and staff.
That's right. I would love to move out of the reactive stage and be in the proactive stage. And my vision would be, let's do everything that we can and minimize the reactive state of mind and move more into the proactive state of mind. And like I said, just as soon as we can get back to as close to normal as we can. There
you go. Well, very good. Well, I appreciate your time this morning. And again, big thanks to you and the frontline staff, your teachers and staff who are back in the classroom or back in front of their webcams doing those virtual classes for all your students in Bloomfield schools. Thanks so much.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks for having me this morning.
You're very welcome. That is James Olivas. He is the Director of Operations and Data for the Bloomfield School District, my guest here on KSJE. And I'll be back with more in just a moment, everybody.